What will it take for them to get to that 11th pick with the Jets, make that trade happen? What would it take for them to get that deal done?
Well, I know that we've had a couple of recent Scouts on our podcast discussing this. One focused directly on why Atlanta may end up being a team that changes the face of the first round. I think at the minimum, obviously beyond swapping places 16 and 11, it's going to take perhaps a third and a fourth. Would they give up the second? It probably depends on who's there. This began back on March 30th, the podcast, the first of these podcasts that I'm referring to, with the thought that Isaiah Simmons, if there's some way he might slide out of the top 10, that might be a target. Since then, we've had NFC South and NFC East and AFC East podcasts that makes it seem like we shouldn't be surprised if the Giants actually select Simmons at number 4, keeping him from being available. So I think Thomas Dimitroff sounds like he's doing exactly what he should be doing, and that's getting his ducks in a row. So when those 15-minute clocks start ticking, that he will know what it will take to move where he'd like to move for the player that he finds still available there. So might that be the top 10? Might it be just outside the top 10? With the Jets at number 11, it certainly remains to be seen. But I think, obviously, it depends on which player is there and then, obviously, what the Jets will demand at the last minute. It sounds like those kind of details are being, I would think, would take, beyond swapping first-round picks, at least one or two others later in the draft.
And do you think some of this is because of maybe the pressure on Thomas Dimitroff coming into this season, him and Dan Quinn, this being really a pressure year after last season people thought maybe they should have let him and Dan Quinn go?
Well, I think, one, of course, there's always pressure in these kind of jobs. It is a bottom-line business, wins and losses. But it's clearly been amped up this year because of what happened last year and the edict that we know Arthur Blank has put on the coaching staff, if not the entire front office. So the thought of drafting for development 2 or 3 years down the road probably is not the same as it's been in some previous years. So clearly they need to win now. And it's interesting to me, would it be a defensive player? Clearly Isaiah Simmons, for those who've listened to the Scouts on a podcast, when we broke down positions starting before the combine and then after, our scout, Dave T. Thomas, who has been working for and with the league for decades, thinks of Simmons as perhaps it's certainly the most versatile player in this draft, if not the most talented player in this draft. So if Simmons falls out of the top 5, let's say the Giants do not draft Simmons at number 4, all of a sudden I wouldn't be surprised if Thomas Dimitroff's got things in the works to get inside the top 10 and leapfrog the Jets at 11, if somebody like that. But two other players I think of note would be John Kinlaw and Derek Brown. Might one of those players fall out of the top 10 at number 11? Could they be a target? Those are all speculation, that possibilities, but a big impact defensive player seems to be what that could be. But then again, this team, might it be an Andrew Thomas at number 11 to shore up, get another talented offensive lineman? Don't know. Certainly would be possible. I would think he clearly would be available.
Let's say the Falcons stay at 16. Who do you think they take with that selection?
Well, I think, again, if they stay there, which is certainly one of the many possibilities that could happen, I think it depends. Would it be interesting? I just don't think a Kinlaw, who's been moving up originally, I think it looked like a Kinlaw might be the guy. But I think Kinlaw, in the eyes of many, and to listeners of the Scouts on our podcast, has moved in front of Derek Brown as the top defensive tackle in this draft. So might Derek Brown still be available there? Might a one of those big four offensive tackles still be available, Andrew Thomas included. That might be a pick if they're available there. It might be a little high to draft somebody like a Jonathan Taylor, the running back out of Wisconsin. But I think this team sounds like, and I know our scout believes they're working hard to do that, to make a big impact defensive player move in the first round, which would then leave the second round pick to something like whether it be a running back or offensive tackle.
Do you think it is mandatory that the Falcons, because they lost Trufant, in my opinion and a lot of other people's opinion, the secondary is a need. Do you think they go secondary in the first two picks at least?
Well, and that's always a possibility. It all depends. Again, I might they move up for one of those? If there's a big drop off, I think, after the first couple. After you get to C.J. Henderson from Florida, you can probably wait to round 2 or even round 3. But again, it's hard to say the value that the Falcons front office puts on some of these guys. But is Okuda going to be available? No. But it all depends. And there's a lot of there's a lot of smoke where there's sometimes fire, and you don't know what teams are putting out things to try to throw others off. But the Lions, if they pass on Okuda, the corner from Ohio State, at 3, and go say Tua Tagovailoa at 3, and throw the first shock wave into this, all of a sudden now one of those big names is likely going to drop into a place that we didn't anticipate them being, which might be a target for Thomas Dimitroff to move up beyond the Jets at 11, but do some of the other things that our scout thinks could be in the works there. It's got the possibility of being a very interesting first round for so many reasons, because of our current world situation. Those in-person visits and pro days are done. The medicals are not the way they usually are. Tua seems to have checked out to a point where, wow, remember a year ago, people were talking about the Dolphins in particular tank for Tua. That has kind of gone away with the injury, but is Tua back in a place that he otherwise might have been? So the Lions might come in at number 3 with all the back issues and everything Matthew Stafford has had, still commit and stay with Stafford, not rush Tua out there. Might it be the perfect pick for them? I don't know. But we've seen stranger things happen in the NFL draft.